thought I'd just give a really quick introduction. Most of you don't know me, but I do know a few people here, and I'm really happy that you came out today. Thank you so much. I'm from California, the San Francisco Bay Area, and I went to college at BYU. I spent the first 9 years of my career as a foreign language instructor. Really enjoyed it, but I wanted to do something a little bit more different. So I moved to St. Louis so that I could attend law school, and I brought my family with me and fell in love with this place very quickly. Forest Park, I think, is one of the gems of the United States, not discovered by many, but those who've seen it totally appreciate how wonderful it is. And I stayed here because my wife and I felt like this was a great place to raise a family. In the past several years, I've been working in the financial services sector, but also been working in startups as well. And the joy of my startup life right now is zPods. We're developing sleep aids for autistic and other children, basically trying to kind of build out a sleep brand that really teaches kids the value of sleep. Now, I don't want to really talk too much about that right now. I want to go into this presentation, okay? The title of this presentation is Holding Up Under the Weight of Your Many Hats. As I said in the kind of intro to this, if you read the, what is this about, one of the things that really blows my mind is that if you're really serious about a startup, you have to be very, very flexible. Startups do not favor the deep experts who are really good at one thing and not very good at a lot of things. Okay, you need to kind of be agile to be able to move around. But that also comes with a price. And that's what I'm going to really talk about, is how do you avoid some of the pitfalls of having to wear, almost by force, so many hats. I'd like to get to know you. I want to get to know you, and so I need you to do something. I need you to either take out a piece of paper if you have one. If you don't, take out your device and open up like a note. So I'm going to give you just a second to be able to open this up. Okay, we're going to have a competition, and I need you to, on your honor, not start until I tell you to go. Okay, and I'm a real stickler for this. I'm a very boring human being. I go by the rules, and I want to enforce some rules right here because I want to find out who the true winner is, okay, in this competition of ours. So let me know when you have your notes open, whether that's on a notebook or on your device, okay? Everybody good? Anybody not good? Anybody like, give me more time, teacher? Anybody? Okay, thank you very much for being honest. All right, we're almost done. Give you about 10 more seconds. You good with 10 more seconds? Cool, okay. Now, what I'm going to have you do, and don't start yet, don't start. I know the impulse is there to just start, get a head start, okay, is I need you to write down, I'm going to put on a 2-minute timer, and I need you to write down as many hats as you can name that you specifically wear, okay? As many hats. I've not started the timer, all right? Here we go. 1 second, cancel. 2 minutes on your mark, get set. Go.
Just in business?
Any hat you wear. Thank you. Good clarifying question. Any hat you wear. And that's a go. That's a go. All right, right. Stop there on your honor system right here, okay? Because there's a prize. And when there are prizes, people get crazy, okay? So no lying here. Need you to tally them up. How many hats, okay? Tally them up. Raise your hand when you have the number, okay? All right, all right. Okay, so now, keep those hands raised. Just keep them raised. Everybody raise your hand. Okay, if you have more than 5 hats, keep your hands raised. Okay, if you have more than 10, keep your hands raised. If you have more than 15, keep your hands raised. If you have more than 17, keep your hands raised. If you have more than, wow, we got some contenders. Okay, if we have more than 19, keep your hands raised. Okay, let's just name the number. How many do you have? 20. 23? Oh, dang, I knew there was going to be a tie. Because I only brought one of these right here. I'm going to tell you guys, someone with 23 hats, you guys need a break, okay? So here, you get it. That's a gracious winner right there. I like that. The good thing is you can share, all right? You can share. You need a break, okay? Now, if you don't mind, I would like to ask both of you really quickly, just as quickly as you can, read off those 23. I want to hear them. Okay, everybody listen really carefully. Yeah, just read them fast.
Okay.
And loud.
CEO of Hive, CEO of Genesis, President of Hive, President of Genesis, Arch Grants recipient, brother, son, grandson, boyfriend, cousin, PI, grant writer, salesman, networker, MHub member, Matter member, scientist, TEDx speaker, friend, fundraiser for Hive, fundraiser for Genesis, roommate to Jake, ethical society member, rock climber, runner.
Love it. Love it. Okay, I like those hats. All right, read them off really quick.
CEO, founder, marketer, web design, branding, graphic design, handyman, trip carpenter, plumber. I deal with buildings. Fundraiser, janitor, barista, bartender, accountant, quality control, manager, confidant, advisor, brother, son, friend.
I love the janitor one in there. That's really good, okay? All of us have crazy amounts of hats that we wear. And if you think about it, it's almost like amazing that we don't just psychologically collapse when you think about this, okay? So what we're going to really talk about is having the focus as you wear these many hats. Now, as I mentioned earlier, startups favor diversity, okay? The ability to be able to just switch mindset. You know, as the CEO or president, you know, ask yourself, have you ever found yourself being the salesperson, being the tax person, being, you know, wearing the legal cap, wearing one of these right here? I'm probably missing something right there. I heard custodian. I've been the custodian for my startup, okay? I've done any number of things that I thought were a little bit too low for my, you know, my title, okay? But I want to find out from you guys, is there anything I'm missing right here? This is not comprehensive. I just want to find out, in terms of the business, what are all the things that are needed to be able to operate a startup? Yeah. Yes.
I'm missing product development, product testing.
Yeah, okay, product development, product testing, okay. Did I put quality, QC is there, but not the product development, okay. I see R&D, research and development. Anybody else? Any other ones that are missing up here? Not that there's a right answer, I'm just, you know, making a point.
Therapist,
Yes, therapist. We have one of those on our team, okay? He's very good at that, okay? Yes?
Chief People Officer, HR.
Yes, HR, totally missing from there. Of course HR is missing there. We take HR for granted, okay, until we're doing their job. The fact of the matter is, you're starting a startup, and that startup has all of these needs, and only usually at the beginning 2 or 3 people, maybe just 1. Okay, so that means that 2 or 3 people, 1 person, 4 people are all wearing these hats and more, which brings me to my point. When you don't have someone who's wearing that hat, you have 2 choices. One of them is you wear it, okay? And by you, I mean you or your team members, or you pay someone to wear the hat for you, okay? Yes, that is what you think it is. All right. For me, in terms of the hats that I wear for zPods, I am sales. I still do sales. I go to conferences. I am our legal counsel. I do our grants. Okay, I do our custodian. I said community. I've been kind of like on the board of directors for organizations that we feel are important for us to support as a part of our venture, and I'm our pitch man. Okay, these are the hats that I wear, probably more, but these are the ones that I wear pretty regularly, and it can be a dizzying experience. But I want to make sure that we don't neglect all of the hats, because there are some other hats that I think are even more important. Okay, these are the two hats that I wear that go deep down to myself. Okay, they're my prized hats that I will never give up, that mean more to me in this world than anything else. And chances are, I want you to take a moment and think about what are the hats that are core to you. They go deeper than any of the other hats that I showed before. Like, what are some of those hats? Okay, I heard brother earlier. Okay, anybody else have any other hats that you feel like they go to your core? They're a little bit more than just, what you do for your job or as a hobby. Anybody? Sister, right there. Don't leave out the sister. Oldest sister, even more specific hat. Okay, there's a lot of different personality and kind of role that come with that. Okay, anybody else?
Dog mom.
Say again?
Dog mom.
Dog mom, right there. Yes, you love your dog, and it's more than just like, oh, this is nice. This is something that my dog I care about. Okay, all right. Let's move on from there. The point is, we're going to talk about both your core hats and the other hats and how to balance them. Okay. I want to tell you a little bit about something that I went through at one point while running this startup, and that was burnout. It was a very painful experience. When I say painful, I don't mean it in a trite kind of, I'm getting up and tell you, oh, it was painful, it was really hard. It was, I'm in tears painful. It was, I feel severe depression for prolonged periods of time painful. It was, I don't know who to talk to painful. Okay? And everybody goes through it. It's normal, but that doesn't make it any less difficult to deal with. And the reason why I bring up burnout is because, as I'll get into in the next slide, it interplays with these many hats pretty well. So here are some symptoms. Here's some ways that you may be going through actual diagnosable burnout. Okay, cynical or critical attitude. You have a hard time getting up in the morning. You're lacking energy. You're not focused. You're not satisfied with your own achievements. You don't even see that you've done anything good. Work just feels like it's purposeless. Okay, you have an addiction that you're entertaining. Okay, you're changing in your sleep habits. If you see a shift, that might be a good sign. Or you may have some sort of unexplained physical discomfort, like it's a stomach ache or headaches that you never used to have. This is all according to the Mayo Clinic. And the Mayo Clinic goes on further to say that there are some causes to this. Why is this happening? Okay, maybe you just feel like everything's out of your control. As a startup, it's very easy to feel like it's out of control. It's very easy to feel like you don't really know what you're doing or what you expect of your teammates or what they expect of you. It's very easy to fall into dysfunction. Okay, I've seen all of these. I've experienced all of these. One of them that's not listed by Mayo Clinic, but I think is really important to list, is you don't get paid enough. Okay, it sounds trite, but it's real. And if you don't appreciate that, the kind of what's going on in terms of the money side, it's going to affect you psychologically. You don't want to be material. Yes, I'm in it to change kids' lives and to help them sleep better and blah, 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 blah. But if I'm not making money, then there's a real chance that I've got to really rethink. And an article I read about this said something very insightful, and that is that you will continue in burnout. You will persist in burnout until you change some of these things. Okay, that's very important. Going back to hats, what I've noticed is that there is nothing on this list that having to wear multiple hats makes easier. Nothing. I'm not here to solve the entire burnout problem. I'm here to talk about just this one issue. And it really, at its core, it has to do with focus. How do you stay focused when your mind is being stretched in many different directions? And going back to this experience of having burnout myself, what really helped me was that I adopted some very specific practices for myself that have helped keep me focused. Now, I want to make sure that you understand that as I go through my own kind of model, and this is me having a peace, I forgot to go to this slide, but this is me having a peaceful moment. It's not really me, it's a Unsplash, great site. Go to Unsplash, okay, find all your stock photos there. But I've got a very simple model, and some would even call it simplistic, okay? I'm still in the process of kind of developing it out. But I do think that looking at this from a simple perspective can help, okay? I want to, I guess, I want to help you get focused because it really helped me to be able to understand what am I doing at the moment, and am I really actually enjoying the thing that I'm doing in the way that I can, okay? So I'm going to first go through these, these 4 steps of how to put a hat on properly, okay? And you'll notice that this model is kind of based on what it is that you might try to do with your children or your nephews or nieces or your pets when they get engaged in one activity and then they jump to the next. They never clean up that mess before they get started with the other. Like, we're really strict about that in our home right now, where it's just like your art supplies are out or your electronics are still on, something like that. And that's going to be a very similar method that we're talking about right here. But I want to tear down 2 myths first. Myth number 1. Multitasking is great. Multitasking is total garbage. Okay, it doesn't work. The studies that I was reading on multitasking said that there's about 2.5% of the population that actually performed well at their multitasking test. Okay, maybe you're part of that 2.5%. I'm guessing that you are exceptional people, okay, because you're already doing something very risky. But I'm going to tell you right now, I would just as soon assume also that you're not good at multitasking. I know that I'm not. And I kind of, like, how does multitasking show up, okay? Give me maybe some, shout out some answers. Tell me, what are some ways that you've seen people try to multitask, and tell me a little bit about that. 25 tabs open at one time. Okay, I'm guilty of that. Anybody else? Any other multitask viewings? Or yeah.
Wanting more control than they can manage.
Yes. Okay. I'm entitled to this control, in a way. Okay. Anybody else? Other kinds of multitasking.
Cooking while listening to an audiobook or something.
Cooking while listening to an audiobook. Please explain more. I like this. There's a story there.
I'll just be cooking. I know I need a recipe, so I'm trying to read the recipe while I'm listening to an audiobook. So I'm missing the entire book, or I'm burning something.
I love it. But you're not getting both. No, what you are getting is burnt food and an ill-processed book. Okay, well, I love that example. Okay, I am guilty of this all the time. Okay, yeah, go for it. Now I hear another one.
Yeah, I tried practicing my Spanish skills with my roommate. We went to the grocery store and we made a pact to only speak in Spanish the whole time. And I ended up missing half of my grocery list and getting half the wrong things. So, definitely.
That is awesome. I love that. Actually, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I remember when I was a kid, I was probably about 14 or 15 years old, and I was with the Boy Scouts, and we were, I'm from California, we were driving up to Yosemite, we were going to camp in the snow, and my dad was one of the drivers. I was in the car, it was a Dodge Dart, and in the back were 2 of my friends, Troy and Micah, and my dad was driving the car around windy, snowy passages, and in his right hand was his Russian book, okay? learning new Russian words, and the 3 of us were taking turns peeing our pants, okay? Never, ever do that. Don't drive and study Russian, okay? It's a myth, don't do it. Incidentally, we're still alive, so maybe my dad's part of the 2.5%. And, but the point is that the mind is very focused, or it wants to focus rather. And when you let it focus, it is an extraordinary tool. Okay, it's a beautiful gift Okay, I love this quotation. The more we multitask, the less we actually accomplish because we slowly lose our ability to focus enough to learn. I should have taken that out. If we're constantly attempting to multitask, we don't practice tuning out the rest of the world, misspelled, to engage in deeper processing and learning. It's that deeper processing and learning that I want to give you guys access to through a few exercises we're going to do today. Second myth, I'll sleep when I die. Okay, that right there, that's a Silicon Valley attitude. I hear it all the time, and it just blows my mind. The benefits of sleep are so extraordinary, and I do a sleep startup. I can tell you right now, I have read many books now about the benefits of sleep that you're just cheating yourself out of. I'm going to give you a couple studies, and this is just two of many that I've come across that really intrigue me. One of them is that your good sleeper is going to make half as few mistakes in the workplace as your poor sleeper, on average. Okay, half as many. But the worst part about those mistakes is that they have no clue that they're making those mistakes. And I'll tell you the reason why. It's because too little sleep. Let's say that we just pull one overnighter. That's tantamount to having a 0.1% blood alcohol level. Okay, that is a real thing. And if you're pulling 6 hours sleep over the course of 2 weeks, you have about equivalent to a 0.7%, 0.8% blood alcohol level. That's what you're dealing with. And imagine, again, like you know when someone's drunk, but you also know that they don't know that they're drunk. And it's an amazing thing. And so you're not even in a position to be able to say, oh, I'm fine. You're actually not in a position. Now, there are about 3% of human beings that are short sleepers. I happen to know at least one who is a very short sleeper, and they function well on that sleep. They are almost like mythological creatures. They're wonderful. I'm kind of jealous of them. And at the same time, I can tell you right now, most people, you're probably not that person. You probably need that 8 hours, maybe 7.5, 8.5, give or take a half hour, whatever it is. But don't give into this right here. You'll be amazed by the benefits. I know, by the way, I've actually logged my own performance after a bad night's sleep, and I'm like, holy cow, if I weren't specifically paying attention to my poor performance, I would not have a clue that I am doing that poorly, okay? There's a great, this building right here was created by John Allen. It's in Stirling, Scotland, and it was torn down, which is a shame, because there's this Albany crescent stone that was on this. And I'm not sure where Mr. Allen, the architect, got this expression, but I want you to take it to heart in everything that you do. Whate'er thou art, act well thy part. You need to understand the nature of the hat that you are wearing. So let's get started, okay? I'm going to do a little bit of an exercise with you guys. I want you guys to just choose a hat right now that something that concerns you. And here's a good way to gauge whether or not you're choosing the right hat to work on. It's a time management question, and I'm not talking about time management here, but I have learned from myself that one of the best ways to know which hat I need to be wearing at the moment is it's the hat that I don't want to wear. Okay? If it's a hat that I don't want to wear, I promise you that there's an association there with something that has to be done, and I just don't want to do it. It's a good psychological gauge. Now, there are other ways, other tools that you can use to be able to show that, but I want you to choose a hat right now, just for this experiment, okay? Now, one of the toughest things about choosing the hat, I have ADHD. I'm not quite the poster child. That's more my son. My second son, William, is just off the wall, but he gets it from me for sure. I'm definitely ADHD. And one of the things that I learned about ADHD, anybody else who wouldn't mind telling us all that they have ADHD right here? Okay, there's no shame in it. Like, I totally have it. But one of the things that comes with it is that when you're in between tasks, that's the devil's playground. You actually, that's one of the points at which you panic and you're like, I don't know what to do, and then you don't do anything, or you look on Facebook, or you play video games. One of those things, and that's when it happens. That's when you're stuck, right? I learned that fast choosing, it's better, number one, a couple tips for choosing. Number one, what's the hat you most detest right now? Okay? Number two, just make a choice. okay? Because when we go through the rest of the steps, you're able to focus enough just to get it over with, okay? Make a choice, embrace the hat. And those are the two things that I would want you to really remember, okay? Again, just choose it. Now, after you've chosen the hat, you need to make sure that none of the other hats can get in the way at this point. You've already made a choice, you're in, okay? And there are a couple things that you need to do. Number one is you need to create the right environment. So somebody said earlier, was it 15 tabs? How many tabs was it? 25? 25 tabs. You need to close a lot of those tabs off, okay? Because now that you've chosen the hat, you need to commit yourself only to the tabs, maybe 3 or 4, that are necessary for that task, right? The other thing you need to do besides environment is that you have to, how should I say it? One of the things I find myself doing is that I'll fear, wait a minute, if I really commit to this hat, I've got something that's going on in 1 hour, and I need to do that. That's actually part of your environment. It's part of your reality. It's part of your context. Set a timer. If you're afraid that by putting on your hat that you're going to forget about the other hats too much, then use the timer. That's what the timer is for, so you can lock yourself, because you have to be able to shut out all of those hats. Now, notice, going back to this model, there are not arrows going from hat to hat. It doesn't work that way. And if you're going from hat to hat, you're being ineffective. You're going to go back to the core you, and we'll talk about what that means later. Now, you're going to put the hat on. I find that meditation for this step is critical, whether it's meditation for you or prayer or whatever it is that helps get you in that headspace. I use box meditation, which is basically 4 counts breathing out, 4 counts holding, 4 counts breathing in, 4 counts holding, 4 counts breathing out. And I really hone in then. I close everything out and I lock in on that hat. And when I put on that hat, I also build a vision in my mind for what it is I actually need to be doing. At the end of this, I define effectively, I put my timer on for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or 1 hour or whatever amount of time I've locked out. And I actually, when I'm putting the hat on, I start to define what it is that I will have accomplished at the end of that set period of time. And the reason why is because when you're building vision, you're giving your mind permission to be able to go through the motions, to be able to actually carry it out. And there's something about doing this that actually gets you excited. I don't know what it is. And again, I'm still fleshing this out. But when you're building a vision of getting it done, you're actually getting yourself kind of amped up. You're gamifying it to the point where like, okay, can I do this thing in this amount of time? How many emails can I knock out in this amount of time? How effective can I make this meeting with this person? You're blocking it out and you're really building a vision, okay? One of the great books on this, and I checked the time, I don't have a good. Okay, I've got plenty of time. Is there a clock in here, by the way, just so I can kind of gauge myself? I'll just go off it. One of the books that I really love on this, and we'll get to books later, I only have a few that I really want to recommend. None of them really kind of talk about what I'm talking about, except for that I'm drawing on some of the principles from some of these books to be able to build my own idea. And I want to make sure that if you didn't catch it before, this has worked for me. A variation of it is going to work for you, or maybe not at all. I don't know. But I'm guessing that most of us are like this because, as I said, multitasking is not a thing, and we need a way to be able to focus. I only threw sleep in there as a matter of health because no one's going to argue with me over diet and exercise. No, even if you're terrible at those things, and I am, you're still not going to argue. A lot of people might argue with sleep. But going back to putting the hat on. I love 7 habits. Okay, I know that it's totally cliche, but I'm going to tell you there's one habit in 7 habits that really has helped me a lot, and it's habit number 2. Anybody know what habit number 2 is?
Does it begin with the end in mind?
Begin with the end in mind. Okay, begin with the end in mind. And it's this, what Covey is telling the reader to do is, if you really want to know what it is that you want to be like, and in this case, what you want your 30 minutes to be like, you need to go to your own funeral. And you need to watch what people are saying about you. What are the things, who's talking at your funeral? Who do you want to be talking at your funeral? And what are they saying about you? And, for me, for example, I absolutely want, my kids to be talking at my funeral. I want my wife to be talking at my funeral. And it doesn't bother me that I will probably, predecease them, but not too soon, hopefully, we're good, fingers crossed, but their opinions about me matter more than anything in the world, okay? And now that allows me to kind of assess my own values. That's a little bit dramatic for just a task. I don't have to do email for 30 minutes, George, okay? I don't need like a funeral. But you do need to have an idea of what it looks like at the end of those 30 minutes. You do need to understand what it is you're committing yourself. And again, try to paint it as positively as possible. If it's that really, go back to the really bad hat that you just put on, you're like, crud, okay, plunger, or plumber, whatever, like that, okay? When that thing is done, how is that going to feel for you? And I want you to be able to envision the feeling itself, because now you have something that you're going to be striving towards. Now we're going to play. The hat itself is not necessarily you. I'm more than just legal. I'm more than just the pitch guy. Okay? There's my core. But I put those hats on because there is an element of something really exciting about that, and you need to look for what the fun is. And it may help you to gamify the experience, which is a great way to just plow through something that you're having a hard time with. Okay? I don't want to resolve this customer service issue. Customer service is my least favorite hat, by the way, right there. I don't want to do it. But then I find a way to say, how can I make this person happy? How can I make this person feel like they were genuinely listened to? And that I am actually invested in resolving their issue and not just brushing them off because they already paid me. So you have to find a way, whatever that nasty, terrible thing is, find a way to gamify it. And to remember, you've got this time. You're free. All of the other hats are gone because in that second step, putting the hat on, you took a moment to meditate. You took a moment to clear your mind. And now you can focus on this thing and give it your total all. And you'll notice, I know that you've all been in an experience where you're doing something that is, and you're trying to do other things, and you're doing a garbage job at both of them, okay? I want you to really invest yourself because then the experience is going to be a lot pleasanter than without. And the last one, this is something I think is often overlooked. It's putting the hat away. I want to explain to you what I mean by putting the hat away. Putting the hat away is very similar to that second step where you're clearing your mind. In some ways, you're giving yourself permission at this point to be done. I've did everything I could in this select amount of time. If you need more time, then put that down. Getting Things Done, a book by, I'm trying to remember the name of the author. Do you know that one, Getting Things Done? Do you remember the author's name? It's Dave Allen, I think. Yeah, okay, that's right, Dave Allen, Getting Things Done. Sometimes you may need more time, but the point is that when you're putting something down, you're giving yourself permission to move on. And the most important part of this is to give yourself credit for what you accomplished. I know that sounds really cheesy, like, and I'm, gosh darn it, I'm good enough type of stuff right there. But it is really important to give yourself credit and to recognize what you did well. But I would even add to this, there's a book I'll bring up later, but I really, really want you to look at it. It was very good, Debrief to Win. It's actually by a local here. His name is, it's Cujo is his nickname, is what he goes by. But yeah, that's right, Robert Teichner. And his whole thing is, he's a former fighter pilot. And what he would do after every single mission is he would actually go over with his team everything that they did and everything they did wrong. And sometimes when I'm debriefing myself, I'll realize, you know what, I was still trying to wear two hats. You know what, I was still distracted. Why was I distracted? And then you repeat this process again, choosing a hat, putting it on, playing, and then taking the hat off and putting it away. But this debriefing step, I think, is an overlooked gem. It is so good for you to evaluate yourself and be honest, okay? After every single time that you do something, get a task, put a hat on. And that allows you to be able to improve the next time, to improve your performance and to excel at wearing that hat. Now I want to go to taking care of your core self, because it's important that you recognize that you're still you. It's like, yeah, I wear legal and stuff like that, but I'm George in the inside, you know. Now what that means is going to be very different from person to person. That's why I think that it's really important that you take some time to really think about what it is that you value the most. Again, going back to what I said about Covey's exercise, I really enjoy that because that's a great exercise for this too. When I'm going through that exercise of going through, it's not narcissistic for me to want my son at my funeral to say, my dad was really kind and loving and always showed me that. It is narcissistic to want that and not give it, okay? When I go through this exercise of who is it that I really am at my core self, that is a really important thing to have. And it really brings me back. It kind of helps me to prioritize a little bit more. What are some other ways that you guys like to kind of self-care? You know, what does that mean for you? I mean, in ways that genuinely build up the core self. Yes?
I created a coloring book for myself that is like an affirmations book that helps me realize who I am, or remind myself who I am, what I'm working towards, and that I've done the work. And if I haven't, then, you know, I can pinpoint that. It's a journal/coloring book, so it helps me zone out and focus at the same time.
Sweet. Love it. I love that. That's good. And do you have a time that you do that specifically?
No, just mostly when I feel the most overwhelmed and when I'm avoiding the hat.
So it's a feeling that triggers the need for the exercise. Got it. I saw another hand back there.
Asking others for advice or asking about their pain points and saying, hey, is there a habit I can put on for you, or what habit do you think I'm best at doing for myself?
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that I did that got me out of burnout was I confided in my wife all that I was feeling. And then I built a system with her where, you know, on a quarterly basis each day, you know, I've got my times where I check in with her and I tell her everything that I've done, and I tell her whether or not I've wasted time. Usually my time wasting, it's the news. That's my, you know, I know a lot more about what's happening than I really need to be honest. Okay? Yeah.
For the record, Spark didn't pay me to say this, but honestly, investing in an office here at Spark and giving myself an inspiring space where I run into people is a huge part of my self-care. Whereas I can easily work from home, this was a huge investment in that.
That's awesome. And actually, I like that one because it goes back to, you know, when you're actually putting the hat on, you do have to create a setting in which you can flourish while you're doing the work that you're doing. And you do have to create a setting for yourself that allows you to actually do the introspection that permits you to grow. Yeah.
I like to go rock climbing because it's scary and you're literally not able to think about anything else when you're on the wall. And it puts me in a flow state that's like really comforting. It's also physical activity, which is good too.
Excellent. And it really does pair up those things. That's not even a matter of multitasking as it is the context itself kind of squeezes those things together. That's cool. Anybody else? Last ones. Yeah, Matt.
Go hiking.
Hiking.
Somewhere that doesn't have cell reception, so like I can really like, even if I'm tempted to like even pull up like all trails and make sure that I'm going where I want to go, it's like it forces me to sort of like, all right, really unplug. You know, something that gets my heart rate up a little bit, so I can like focus on breath, but also I tend to like it opens up. I'm able to think a little bit more clearly, like instead of being in the weeds, like it's like, oh, this is what I'm really trying to accomplish. Like even if I do that, like put on my hat, like multitask, like I tend to think more like holistically, like, hey, is this thing that I'm doing like actually moving the needle for me? Is it fulfilling the way that I need it to be? So I find I can think much clearer when I'm like in nature.
Excellent. That's good. The same way. I love nature. I love rock climbing. I'm certainly not as good as you are at it, but I've actually started doing a little bit more with my kids. Wonderful things. Find that thing. I find it very unsettling when I talk to somebody particularly parents. I talk with a lot of other parents, and that's kind of my, that's my neighborhood right there. And I'll ask them, like, so what do you do? You're like, what hobbies do you have? And the most unsettling answer I ever hear is like, oh, I don't even know anymore, like my kids. And I'm like, no, you've got to rediscover that thing. You've got to, for your own sanity's sake. I can tell you right now, I read, I play music, okay? I make food because that brings me a lot of joy. I know what it is that I do and I know what I love, but there have been times where I've been tempted. I've got 5 kids. Believe me, I've been tempted to be back in that spot where I no longer remember what I do. I would also add to this, I have a personal Sabbath, that for me is like my day of not work. And maybe it's not a Sabbath for you, but you should have some time set aside where you know that you're going to get some rest, something to look forward to. I think that those are very powerful things that you need to do for yourself. I know people who work it out every day, every single day, and I do not think that they're as effective as they think that they are. And that's the crazy thing. When you're not getting the rest, you can't even see like where you're totally scattered. Next step. Oh, reconnect. Trying to see how to. No, working on updates. It's all good. So we'll go to the next one, and if you could get that pulled up. The next one is a family slide. And so there's a couple different parts of the core. First is yourself, the next is your family. And by family, I want to be a little bit loose with this one because I know that not everybody here has like kids or a spouse or anything like that, but think your partner, your siblings, whatever it is that you believe it goes deeper than just your friends. They are the people you rely on. There's also that part of your core self. And I find that having that interaction, that's more than just wearing another hat. Yes, I wear the hat of father. Yes, I wear the hat of husband. But that is so much deeper about like myself than just kind of dismissing it as just being another hat. And for that one idea that I would suggest is whereas I have a Sabbath for myself, I also have a Sabbath for me and my family. Like different times during the week when it's like, you cannot mess with this time. We eat dinner as a family. That's really important, okay? It makes a huge difference. And it doesn't always happen. Even on my own Sabbath, there are times when there is a fire to put out, okay? But create that time for yourself. There's one person in this room that I'm not going to even say his name or even look in his direction because he'd be upset if I drew attention to him. But he is really good at creating a line on a day where he's like, I will not work on this day. I will only spend time with my family. And that to me is amazing because that shows your commitment and your priorities. Any other kind of, again, for lack of a better term, family core exercises that you believe are essential, something that you do, that you really enjoy?
I schedule time to go out with friends who have jobs in completely different professions from what I do and talk to them about what they do because that helps me get away from what I do. I can't even be sitting there making connections to what I do, so I purposely book 2 hours so we can really talk about what they're doing. And that's
Excellent.
very helpful for me.
And pardon me, I haven't been asking names. I apologize for that. My bad. Amy, okay? And what Amy said is that she purposefully finds times to go out with friends who work different professions because that helps her kind of clear her own mind and gets her interested in other people. I like that. Anybody else? Other kind of exercises that draw you closer to the people that you love the most? What was your name? Nick? Yeah.
Sports is like the only thing that all my family can get, right? Whether we're friendly competition or watching and yelling at each other for each other's teams. Really the only thing that we can all come together and all do that.
Nice. Any particular sport, Nick?
Just whatever's on. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Excellent. That's awesome.
5 minutes, we'll pick a team and say, that's my team, and then the other person, yeah.
Excellent. And when you pick a team, like, are you just like, you're totally committing yourself to them? And
Me personally, I'm not as into it as they are, so I'll just do it because they find it as fun mostly.
but you love the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the best way I can relate to them.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Anybody else? Other ideas?
Game night.
And what was your name again?
Christy,
Christy. Tell me about game night.
we'll do game night. Most of the time,
Nice. Nice. We have a game night as well with my kids, and it's really, it's the best way to interact. I love it. I especially love it when my wife's in charge. When my kids are in charge, it's always like Jackbox or something that's like, electronic, and that's fine. I mean, I get a kick out of that. But my wife will go old school, and she'll be pulling out like the board games and stuff like that. My family never did a game night, or at least I think I might be able to recall one time, but it really does draw us closer together. Okay, any last ones? Oh, there we go. Okay, Kara family right there. And Thanksgiving's coming up, so I want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. I tried to look for an awkward family photo with hats and stuff like that. Have you guys, anybody ever been to awkward family photos? Oh man, I love it. Just go look it up, awkward family photos. You will just have the time of your life, okay? So this was one of those. All right, and the last group that I think is still part of this core is your team, the team that you're working with as a startup. I know that it is, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, but you really need to feel tight with them. For us, we have an occasional party, and that's really fun. We have times when we just let loose and banter. It's good to actually schedule a time, because otherwise it's not the same as just being at the office and kind of just going back and forth. That's really healthy, but I'm talking about scheduling times to make that happen. Are there any things that you guys do with your teams that help you draw closer together? Thank you, by the way, Julie, for resolving that.
I mean, just like remembering birthdays and sending gifts and stuff like that.
That's cool. Remembering birthdays. What was your name again? Sarah says, remembering birthdays, sending gifts. I like that. Makes it more personal. Yes. And tell me your name? Joe. Thank you.
So we have some people, we're doing clinical trials, for example, and there's some clinicians who are doing work for us, for free. And we thought, okay, well, that's a really nice gift that they're giving to us with their time and their effort. So Starbucks gift cards and handwritten thank you notes.
Cool. I like that. Little tokens of appreciation. I saw another hand back there as well. What was your name? Martian. Okay.
We're a remote team, so it's founded at the top.
Mm-hmm.
We do like game afternoons. We finish up early every 2 weeks, and just games together online, and then we do a team get together once a week, all the time.
That's very cool. That's a great way to deal with the realities of being a remote team. I like that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Point is, in all of these, there are ways that you have to be able to articulate it. And I want to go back to the family. There's one thing that I do with my wife and kids that has been very meaningful for us. We actually have family meetings. And it's way more formal than I ever was as a kid. I mean, I will tell you right now, I grew up in a very, 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 very dysfunctional family. And it became part of my core self to want to do for my kids what I never got. And it's not being a helicopter parent, but rather being an involved parent. And I think that when we get together and we have councils and we talk to each other and we talk about our dreams and stuff like that, that's something that tends to have a tightening effect in those kinds of relationships. I really love that, and I would really strongly encourage you. I'm going to recommend just a couple of books, but then I also want to, just in a couple minutes with the time that we have remaining, I want to do a discussion. You guys may have some varying thoughts. You may disagree with me. That's fine with me, but I would like to get some of your summary thoughts, but I want to give you a couple last thoughts for myself. Here are 4 books I would really get started with. If you haven't read them, I think all of them are worth your time. Again, 7 Habits, highly cliche. Is there anybody here who has not read 7 Habits? Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, quite a few. That's cool. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I know that one. It's kind of old hat. I actually think that it still has some lasting. I read it years ago, and the principles that I learned in it have aged well. Debrief to Win. That's not on a lot of people's radar. It's actually a relatively new book, but I would definitely recommend it. What Cujo has to say about being a fighter pilot and what he learned there. I met Rodney last week, and you're also former military, and I'll tell you that these guys, they know like how to build teams. They know how to think about getting things done. It's amazing, and that's a great example. Why We Sleep, definitely read it. If you want to break down, like if you want a serious scientific understanding, he doesn't pull any punches, Matthew Walker. He really like gives you raw data and science about sleep and how the brain works and how good it is for you. And then Getting Things Done by David Allen. Oh, it was David Allen. Great book for kind of time management and stuff like that. And I pull from a lot of these principles, and I'm always learning and I'm always refining my own model. A couple weeks ago, I got to be with my brother Ross, and we were in New York. Wonderful day. And Ross handed me, he told me something that I'd never heard before. I'd never thought about. It was a gem. It was a real gift, and hopefully it will be a gift to you guys as well. Ross is one of my favorite thinkers on the planet. I mean, he's just really wonderful human being. He was talking to me about Joseph Campbell. Anybody who know who Joseph Campbell is? Mary, can you tell us about who Joseph Campbell is?
He did like the whole PBS series on myths and why men do what they do and what the tribal background of things is and that.
Yeah, he studies myths as archetypes for kind of, the hero cycle. That's something that came out of Joseph Campbell's thinking. George Lucas was heavily informed by Joseph Campbell when he wrote Star Wars. Okay, so Joseph Campbell had this expression. It goes to what I've been talking about. I hope that you understand at the core of what I'm trying to teach you about today and what I'm trying to strive towards myself is the ability to be able to focus on the thing that you're doing while you're doing it and the gift that is. Joseph had this to say: "We are not looking for the meaning of life as much as we are looking for the experience of being alive." And that really that got me, because I feel like when we're not in the moment, we're robbing ourselves of that very precious gift. It is a wonderful thing to be able to lock yourself into a gift, or a task, and learn everything you can from it, and to do the very best you can while you're doing it, to excel. So that's really what I hope for you guys. Now, if you don't mind, I'd love to just get any of your last thoughts. We have about 5 minutes left, and I'd love to just get your thoughts. What are some things that have helped you get over burnout? What are some things that help you to focus? And I'll leave the rest of the time to you guys. Mary.
Yeah, just coming up with the concept that happiness is a byproduct, not a goal. And that, a goal is a reason to take the journey, but the journey is what's important.
Thank you very much. I like that. Happiness as a byproduct, not a goal. Yeah, Nick.
Starting with the pain point is always really helpful for me. Starting with, is there finding a problem, whether it's for myself or for a friend of mine or someone I care about, family, etc. Finding a problem that whether I can solve it right now or in the course of a lifetime. I'm just getting closer to that, so no matter what, I'm getting closer to something that can be solved in the first place.
Nice. How do you identify something that can be solved as opposed to just something that's just a pressure, that you deal with?
Well, I'm classically trained in engineering, so I can always go back to if there's nothing in my interior world, like starting with interior world. Am I wanting to wake up this morning? If so, no problem. I'm first world country. It means everything's going fine in my world.
Yeah.
So if I don't wake up in the morning, oh no, I don't have a reason to wake up in the morning. Is there anything I can solve? No. Is there something someone else or I can solve for someone else?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nick. Anybody else? Yeah, what's your name?
Ken.
Ken, thank you.
George, you've been very, very open with your journey, both physically and mentally, with your exploration as an entrepreneur. Would it be possible for you to just give us a quick rundown on what the zPod is, bringing full closure to this? Because I'd like to hear that
Thank you.
component of it too.
So zPods, in a nutshell, one of the things that we've noticed, and it happened by a total coincidence, was that we came across what are called capsule beds. If you've ever been to a Chinese or Japanese airport, they have these enclosures that you can pay a little bit of money and sleep in. We brought some of those back to the United States, and then we thought about a purpose for them. We were it was almost like a solution looking for a problem, which is not the right way to go about things, but it just happened that it really worked in this case. somebody said, you guys really need to look at autistic kids and help them out. And I actually backed away from that. I said, nope, not going there. And the reason why is because I have 5 kids, and 2 of my children are autistic. And I knew that, you know, a lot of people who sell in autism, I feel like there's a lot of snake oil out there. So I was really, really skeptical. I just like, why is an enclosed bed that's super expensive going to help anybody? But a couple things came to my mind that loosened me up a little bit. Number one was I kept on thinking of Temple Grandin, a very famous autistic woman, and her squeeze machine and the way that she dealt with sensory issues. Enclosure as a sensory feedback, a positive sensory feedback. I was like, okay, well maybe. And I talked with a lot of doctors and specialists, and then I watched my own son get inside the bed and just chill him out. He closed himself out up, and he has a very severe sensory processing disorder. 15 years old right now. He was 12 or 11 when this first happened. But the thing that really kicked it was we had a young woman whose mother approached us. She says, my daughter sleeps in the closet for 4 hours a night and is schizophrenic and autistic, and only sleeps 4 hours. It was crushing her and crushing her mom. I really want to try this out. And we're like, no promises. I was like crossing my fingers when we set that up. Like, can you imagine what would happen if she started sleeping like 6 hours a night? Like, wow. She jumped to 10 hours, literally overnight. And that's been 3 years now. Natalie is one of, I think we've worked with 130, 40 kids now. And they love it. It helps them to relax. So we're not just doing the bed. We're looking at a very big picture of children in sleep. 73 million children in the United States, up to 40% of them have some sort of sleep issue, and around 1 out of 6 children has a sensory processing disorder, which is comorbid with like ADHD, autism. You can have a neurotypical child who also has sensory issues. And so we're trying to develop all sorts of sleep technology around kids and basically designing it to appeal directly to them, to teach them that sleep is actually really good. So that's what we're building. And I know in respect of time, I want to kind of wrap this up. I've got 1 minute left. That could be a very important product, and I really hope for its success. It's not written in the stars. We could totally fail. I am very optimistic about our chances. I think that we're doing something very good, but it doesn't matter how good it is if I'm burned out. And I want to wrap this up by going back to that, because it didn't matter. I could get up any day of the week, and it did push me forward to think of Natalie and to think of what I'm doing for my son, but I had to learn some things about how to take care of myself, because it could be a really wonderful and worthy cause, but if you're not in good shape and you're not focused enough to be able to make that happen, someone's going to create what we're doing. We're creating a sensory environment that adapts to the child using AI technology is kind of our big picture type of technology. Someone's going to do it, and now we get to find out if we're going to be those ones, but we have to stay focused. So that's why I would really recommend to all of you, take the time to evaluate what you're doing when you're working. So then thank you so much. I appreciate your time.